All right, everyone. Oh, I got to get my headphones. I forgot about that part. So let me share this and I'll get my headphones and start taking calls. I'm sorry that I'm late. Um, so let me get a chance to share this real quick and give y'all a chance to filter in. I just got back home, so that was one reason why I was late. Let's share this to the group. All right. Alrighty. So, welcome to another Monday Night Live. Like I was saying, I just got back in and I am opening up the hotline. I'm sorry for being late. Um, but in a minute, the hotline will be open and I'll be able to take your phone calls. So, there we go. It's open. Cool. So, again, let me write down the number in the chat box if you guys want to join. That phone number is 336 444 2169. And it's also in the comments in case you couldn't hear me. Oh, I need to get my headphones because the mic on them is better. So give me just a second. Also, it is extremely warm in here. So I had to take my jacket off. I just came in. All right. Can everyone hear me? Not sure who all is on right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Again, if you want to call, which I should put the phone number back in the group again in case anyone doesn't have the number. Hello, Alex. Can you hear me all right? So I was trying to think of some topics to talk about, but because I got so rushed, I can't even remember what it was specifically I wanted to talk about. Um, Last week we talked about the non-existent quota, and we talked a little bit about how anyway, if y'all want to call the numbers in the comments. I'm not going to post it in the group because I've already posted it in the group a few times. But yeah, so we talked about the quota that doesn't exist. And we also talked about disabled people being discriminated against in the family court system, all the way to the federal level. And naturally, poor people are also targeted by CPS. But I've kind of figured that's a given. So, poor people, disabled people, both of them are targeted the most heavily by CPS. Um, and it mostly it kind of depends on the area that you're in. So, for example, in my area, it's mostly white people that are targeted. But if you live in an area where there's a lot of poor people that happen to be black, then them being poor would make them more likely to be targeted as well. Um, so, poor people and disabled people is mainly what it seems to be. It doesn't really seem to be a race thing, although surprisingly, a surprisingly large number of Hispanic people are not targeted. It's mostly whites and blacks in the poor community that are targeted, and then the disabled community, whether that's disabled parents or disabled children. They will target parents of disabled children as well and claim that they do not have the ability, either the funding to pay for a specialist for that child, because they'll insist that you don't have everything that your child needs because they're special needs. And so they have to be in these programs, and oh, you don't have the money for that. So you're neglecting your child, your disabled child. I've heard of that story quite a few times. Um, a but like I said, mostly it's disabled parents rather than disabled children that are targeted, but there is a large number of disabled children who are being targeted as well. Um, and I think a lot to do with that is because disabled people do not have federal or state protection from CPS, and so they can use a disability to take your child, which was the case with me. They used me being on disability as a reason to take my children, or not to take them as far as the physical custody, but to terminate my parental rights. That's what I'm trying to say. They can terminate your parental rights, which in a state like North Carolina does not have any kind of reunification laws. And so, pretty much, if you're in North Carolina and you lose your parental rights, you do not have any chance of reunification at any point in that child's life. Like I'm pretty sure, like, even if they turn 18, you can't even legally adopt your child back, that type of thing. But I'm not sure exactly, but I do know that they didn't have any kind of reunification laws in North Carolina, whereas other states they do. But I think it's like some of the states you have to wait 6 years after the termination hearing. It has to be like 6 years past your last denied appeal. And then the child also has to be 12 or older, I think. Um, I'm not sure about that, but I do know it has to be at least 6 years after your last failed appeal. And then also for your child to have the ability to speak on your behalf or on their own behalf, they have to be at least 12 years old in order for the court to heed or hear anything that they have to say. They won't even listen to anything they have to say otherwise. Clearly, because my kids wanted to come home and they didn't get to. Um, I hope y'all don't mind. I am going to eat because I haven't ate since what, like 2 or 3? I can't really remember. 3. It was like 3. And I just got home. I meant to get home a bit earlier, but that didn't happen. So again, for those of you that don't know, we will be going until 9 o'clock, or basically an hour. We will run for an hour unless people start calling in, which I have the line open. I'll show you in a second. Yes, I used my nose to open it. So I don't know if you can see that because how bright the phone is. Hold on. So the line is open for you guys to call. I know it's backwards because it's flipped on the camera, but it's open, waiting for people's phone calls or text. If you don't feel comfortable with calling, you can also send a text. You can also write in the comments, but if you're not comfortable with that, then you can send a private text to me and I will read the text. And if you don't want your name shared, let me know in your text and I won't share your name. I'll just read your text as it comes in. And also, if you call, you don't have to share your name either. So, whatever you feel comfortable with, I would love to hear from you guys. Um, so, like I was saying, your child has to be at least 12 years old for them to legally be able to speak in family court and say where they want placement. So, and also, I think they may have to be that old for reunification as well, but I'm not sure. Um, I'm trying to remember exactly what it is I was going to talk about because I had some things I meant to write them down and I didn't. Hmm. And if you guys have any questions for me, any specific questions, like even if you don't want to share your story, if you have any questions you would like to share, feel free to do so in the comments or through text. I'm gonna go ahead and share the number in the groups anyway. Um, so I know I've been talking with you guys a lot about all of the problems with CPS and trying to give y'all different examples because a lot of people don't understand just how serious it is. Um, Again, most people who go into that line of work, even with the best intentions, either become corrupted or they get fired or resign because they realize what it's all about and they end up leaving. Or, like I said, they end up becoming corrupted because they decide that a paycheck is worth it. Either that or maybe they get brainwashed into thinking that hurting children is helping children. That's quite possible, actually. Um, it's very possible that they get brainwashed. And that's even if they have good intentions. I think most of the people that go in there, at least in my experience, the people that I had the most contact with, um, there was a couple I have met who weren't like this, but most of the ones that I met, they were the what would you say, the very definition of the diagnosis of a sociopath. They had no emotions at all. They had no feelings at all. And they didn't care anything about children. If and it was like they only got into the business because of their own need for power and glory, because a lot of times people in those positions get glorified because they project out, oh, we're helping children, we're doing all this good stuff. That's what they say, but it's not what they actually do. But society doesn't know any better, and so they get glorified for having that job. And then on top of it, they also have complete and utter control over people's lives. Like, they can just do anything to them. And maybe it's not like that everywhere, but most of the states that I have talked to different people from, it is that way. Um, I know Texas just recently reformed their CPS, or they signed a bill to reform it. I don't know if they have actually done it yet. And I haven't kept up with it enough to know what the results were of that. So let's see. The number to call, not the nugget, the number to call is, wait, wait, and we'll just say to call is 36-444-2169. You can also text. All right. So I just shared that to the group as well. I don't know why the number keeps going from 2 to 3 on this viewer thing. I'm not really sure what would cause it to do that. All right, so I got the number shared to the groups now. Again, it is open if anybody wants to text or call, which no one has. So yes, if any of you guys would like to ask questions, because I meant to write down some things to talk about, and I ended up completely forgetting about it because of how crazy busy I was this past week. I had I don't remember, I don't think I told y'all this last week. I had a commercial that, well, not I had a commercial, but the filmmaker group that I'm in, the that was recording a commercial, we did that Friday, and so I was busy all day that day doing that, and then pretty much the rest of the week doing schoolwork and other YouTube related things, as well as taking care of the mini animals, the mini dogs that I have. Um, so, and again, I'm still eating while on air. I've realized this is a bad idea because of where the mic is. But I had a notebook. I thought I did write down some things actually to talk about. Oh, well, one of the issues too is that no one seems to have come up with any solutions as to what we can do to get this reformed. For one, the channel hasn't had a whole lot of attention. I mean, it's had a lot of attention for what I planned on it having. I didn't plan on anybody caring enough to subscribe, let alone be actively watching the channel. So I'm actually really surprised about that. So, but what I'm saying is that a lot of y'all are from different states, and in order for us to change the laws, we're probably going to have to start state to state first, which means we need to be raising awareness in our local areas, and also trying to get a hold of, like, say, our state senator, the governor, all those things. We need to get a hold of these people. The I don't know if Shirley Randleman is still the senator, the legislative senator of my state or not, but that was who my contact was. So I need to check. We all do. We need to check in our state who these people are in the legislation system, not the judicial. That's one thing that I've found is that judicial and legislation, they can't cross each other. So The legislators are the ones who write the laws, whereas the judicial courts and judges, things like that, they are the ones who, what would you say, enforce. They enforce the law, or they're supposed to. Um, so I think if we're wanting to get CPS reform, we need to start with our legislators and our governors first. So, you know, get petitions written up in your state to get people to sign them. We need to spread awareness. Um, for those of us who've already had it done to us, we already know. And I know that there is a lot of you who have already been through this. And so you guys really need to start speaking up. You really need to act so that this doesn't have to happen to future generations. Um, I really do plan on this being a movement, and I'm not going to stop speaking like I had at one point. I'm not going to stop speaking ever again about this, and I hope to be able to do more and more as time goes on. The channel has already come a long way. It was just simply me trying to show y'all what they were doing to my children, which one of those videos they made me take down, which this past year I recently re-uploaded it because the case is over, so there's really nothing that they can do to me. I mean, what more could you do? Lock me up? Well, technically, they don't actually have an order that could lock me up. Um, so this area, the area that I'm in, I don't know what it's like in other areas, but I do know the area that I'm in. The court system here in my town, the courthouse, the judges, the attorneys, all them people, they are all in on it. They all collaborate with CPS because it's like the judge just would not hear any kind of evidence whatsoever. It was just like the caseworker said, "Well, I believe we should do this," you know, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, just whatever y'all think is best." It's like, no, you're supposed to be the mediator between us and them. You're supposed to decide for yourself, what sounds logical. Like, what sounds logical? Who is telling the truth? You don't just assume that because this person is the caseworker that they're right, especially when they're making up lies. And I have evidence proving that they're making up lies. And mm, oh, and mind you, there's a guy in my area. He's a private investigator. He had already exposed this judge as being one of the judges that corroborated with CPS. And one of them actually, it wasn't him, but there was three of them. One of them ended up, I think he died or something shortly after he got exposed. Um, I'm not really sure of the circumstances as far as that, but the other two are still practicing judges, and one of them was the one who resided over my case. And so that's what I'm trying to get to, is that it is a kangaroo court system. You have no chance of winning. And if you do win, it's because they decided to let you win. And I wouldn't say that would be comforting if they did let you win, because most of the time, the ones I've seen that CPS have let win are people that they know that they can go right back in and take them children whenever they want to. Um, like drug addicts, for example. I'm not saying you are that, but I'm just saying as an example, one of which was a drug addict, and they got their kids back. A couple of times they got their kids back, and then eventually they didn't get their kids back. I think it might have been one of those situations where the person ended up having another child that was, like, even younger, and they're like, "Oh, well, they have a baby now, so now we'll go ahead and just take the kids permanently since they have something of value to us," a fresh, small mind that's moldable and hasn't been exposed too much to the abuse and the drug and environment, all that. Because most of the time, if the children are older, they end up just putting them back into unsafe situations. Whereas so that was something I forgot to add to the list. So, parents of young children, and you could be middle class, upper middle class, it doesn't matter. The only difference, really, as far as you being middle class or upper middle class, is that you might actually be able to hire your own attorney from outside the county, one that costs like 10, 20, $30,000. You might be able to do that if you're in that higher status, which is why there's less people of those statuses losing their children, but people of those status lose their children all the time. And so, if you have young children, they have even decided what children they were going to take based off of what preference and adoptions they had at the time. Like if someone wanted blonde hair, blue eyes, or black hair, green eyes, or, chocolate skinned, you know, African American baby or something, like whatever was being preferred at that time, they would target parents that had children that looked like the children that people were wanting to adopt at the time. Not kidding you. This actually happened. There was actually a doctor, I think, who his children were taken from him. I don't know if he ever won them back or not. You would hope with having that much money, he would have been able to do that. But that's the thing is even if you have enough money to fight them, you're still not safe because society and the court system are going to go more so by what they say. And a lot of times, what they do is they just end up criminalizing you to the judge and to society. Where what is that called? They run a slander campaign. Is that what it's called? I don't think that's what it's called. But they do slander you. Smear campaign. That's what they call it. Smear campaign. They will run a smear campaign against you. And so your doctorate degree and being able to buy whatever attorney you want to will not save you if they are intent on having your child. And that is the scary part. Is that if they decide they want your child, they will get your child one way or another. Otherwise, you know, I don't know. It's just very scary the power that they have, and that there's no. I'm sorry, I keep rubbing my eyes. I have contacts in tonight, and apparently they got dried out or something, and so they keep moving around and being weird. Um, but what was I saying? Hold on a second. I need to get a sip of water anyway. Okay. So, again, phone calls. I'm taking your phone calls if you want to call or text. I'm refreshing it to make sure I haven't missed any texts. And it's not on Wi Fi. Let's switch it to Wi Fi. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Um, so, as I was saying, these people, the only way that might not happen is if your children are older and they are smart enough to know what to say to CPS. And so that's another thing that us as parents need to do too. And I know this sounds bad, like, oh, well, you're, telling them what to say, da, 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 so they're not able to speak for themselves. But the fact is children are very vulnerable to saying the wrong thing and to not understanding what is going on. And it's very easy for a CPS worker to put something in a child's mouth, head, they can make them say something that's not true. And the way that they word things is very tricky. I know because CPS was called on my mother when I was like 9, I think, once when I was 9, and then a family member actually did when I was 12. But the only other time, like I said, was when I was 9, and it was someone at the supermarket. And fortunately, I grew up knowing what CPS's intentions were because of my family's history. There's a lot of child nappers in my family. Like, I mean, this goes back several generations, like great great grandparents and stuff. Um, and so I was already kind of aware. And even though my mother didn't coach me on what to say, she did teach me that I should be cautious. And she also told me that they would say that, oh, well, we're here for the children, which again, that's another, what do they call that? It's something that in a tundra, a double meaning. So they're saying, we're here for the children. And they're making it sound like, oh, we are here for the children, to take care of the children, to nurture the children, to make sure they're safe. When what they're really saying is, we are here for the children, to take the children. And I knew that that's what that meant. And sure enough, as soon as they walked in, the first thing they said is that, well, we're here for the children. And I'm sorry, I know it's not funny, but looking back at that experience, it kind of is funny because I witnessed firsthand what they do to children, where they try to confuse them and they try to get children to speak against their parents by accident, like accidentally speaking against them. Like, I remember one of the questions that they had asked me was, do you like being disciplined? What? Do you like being punished? Do you like being disciplined? It's like, yeah, because I'm a masochist that enjoys being uncomfortable, or, being put in timeout, or, being spanked, or being sent to my room, or, having my toys taken from me, whatever the discipline happens to be. Yes, the reason why it's called punishment and discipline is because your child enjoys it, because if they enjoy being disciplined, then that will certainly help them to not make the same mistakes again, right? I mean, and my response as a child was that I think, yeah, this was when I was 9. Yeah, I was 9. And what I had said to them is, well, you're not supposed to enjoy being disciplined. Like, you've done something wrong and you're being punished for it. It's correction. Like, how am I supposed to learn to do any differently if there's no consequences to what I did? I didn't say that whole thing, but I do remember distinctly telling them you're not supposed to enjoy being disciplined. So, for one thing that we need to do is teach people how to, which there's a lot of channels doing this, but some of them are wrong. Okay, because some of them are like, oh, well, you just don't let them in your house and that'll be the end of it. And, maybe that's true. But if that is true, they weren't probably going to take your kids anyway. They were probably just trying to have an investigation so they can say, oh, we've had this amount of investigations this year proving we need this many social workers. That's probably all that it was anyway, is they were just trying to get an investigation. Versus if they actually wanted your child, they'll be back and they will bring the police. And if you didn't let them in the first time, they will even more so use that as evidence for taking your child. So, do you see what I'm saying? So, being rebellious and non-compliant, that is not very helpful information for them trying to take your children. Salve. Oh, Salve Galleria. I'm not really sure what you're saying. Is this another language? Um, I think it is another language. Let's see, and Andreo Gonçalves. I'm or Salves. Is that Andreo Gonçalves? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't understand what it is that you are writing, but thank you for being here and thank you for joining us. Let's see. Hold on. I think you're speaking Spanish, so I'm going to type what you're saying into Google Translate. I'm sorry, my Spanish is not that good. So give me just a minute while I Hold on, that wasn't supposed to be translating from French. Save for my friend Thomas. Let's see, text language. Yes, save for my friend Thomas Trabano. Okay. All right, I get what you're saying. All right, yes, so thank you for visiting my channel. Thank you for your comment. So what was I saying before I got the comment? I'm so sorry. I gotta get used to doing these and increase my short-term memory. Oh, so the better thing to do is to raise smart children. And so we should, which if your children, please do not chew on that. That's going to end up, he's trying to floss his teeth on one of these things that must have fell off the bathroom counter. So the best thing to do is for us to teach our children. I know this sounds bad, but they need to understand that unlike what people try to teach you, that authority figures are always right. And we shouldn't teach them to be rebellious, because I've seen some people who, they are children at being rebelling against authority figures. And it's like, we don't want them to be afraid of authority figures, but we want them to understand that these people do have a certain level of power and that there are certain things that they should try to do to protect themselves and to protect, you as a family. And this goes for anything, whether it's teachers, CPS workers, doctors, anything, and not just for the sake of your children not being removed from the home, but also because there's a lot of people who they use their position of power and authority to do other harmful acts against children, such as molesting them or grooming them into becoming somebody that thinks they're having a willing relationship with an adult. Um, so, which, mind you, that is not worse than what CPS does, because that's exactly what CPS does. And CPS puts them in situations where those things happen. So just to be clear, CPS isn't the lesser of the two evils. They're the exact same evil. They are child molesters. And they're also child murderers too, because there's plenty of times where a child either wasn't taken out of a situation that they should have been taken out of, and that child died, or worse, they were taken from a healthy, loving family, and then they were put into a situation where the foster home either brutally murdered them or they died from neglect. So, and like I said, now they've changed the statistics so that it just says, oh, children are most often abused or neglected by caregivers. And so they lump in natural parents with the foster parents all together and act like it's the same, when actually what the statistics were saying that now somehow got taken down. It was saying that children are 2 to 3 times more likely to be abused in a non-relative, in a foster home type situation, than they would be if they were left with the so-called abusive, neglectful parents. And I think that's another thing that we need to do is we need to take away the stereotype behind what do they call that? Misfit, unfit mother or unfit father. Because a lot of times you will be labeled that simply because you lost your parental rights, when again society is just completely unaware of what is happening behind the scenes until it happens to them. And even me, who was somewhat aware, I felt like because I had already proved I hadn't done anything wrong, and then two, I was cooperating and doing everything that they asked of me, that I thought that, okay, well, all I got to do is go through the motions. Let's get this over with, do what they want me to do, and it'll be fine. And it wasn't. And so even though I knew that they were corrupt, I did not know to what level that they were corrupt. Like, I guess I didn't think that they would break their own rules. You know what I mean? That if they say, oh, you just do this, this, and this, and you will get your children back. And then you do this, this, and this. And they go, oh, well, you're an unfit parent because you have a disability and da 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 da. And, oh, well, this wasn't completed by this time. Wait, you didn't tell me there was a time I had to have something completed by. Like, if there was supposed to be time limits or due dates on these, then that should have been written with it, instead of it being like, well, as soon as you get done with this, then reunification is imminent. And yeah, so that's not what happened. So these people are willing to break their own rules, and they're willing to change the rules as well. If they really want your children, which for me, my children were young enough that, uh-oh, I think I'm losing connection for some reason. Hey, can anybody still see me? I'm having a good connection, because it said something, it warned me saying something about the internet was not stable. So we have 15 or so give or take 15 or so minutes left. We just hit 45 minutes live. So if anybody would like to call, leave a comment, or send a text, feel free to do so. Um, I am hoping that we will be able to get more and more people that this has already happened to. I'm not really sure what I need to do. If I need to go, like, stand on the sidewalk somewhere and hand out flyers to people. Um, I mean, most of the people in my town already know this because over half of their children have been taken. Um, and it's not even that some of them shouldn't have been taken. Like, sure, some of them probably should have had their children taken, at least temporarily. But there's also just a lot of poor people in my town that have been taken advantage of, and there's a lot of disabled people in my town. Yeah, so, but that's the thing is, it's like a lot of people that are in these situations, it's like, why bother, I guess. For one, they don't feel like they can stand up to them. And then the ones who do, they take it overboard to the extreme, and like run in there with a machine gun or something. And then they end up getting locked up. And it's like, you're not helping our cause by responding in a violent way. Like, that's not helping us. That's not the kind of action that needs to be taken. We need to take legal action. And thank God we are in a country where protesting is still allowed. So far it's still allowed. That might change. But so far, we are still allowed to verbally, peacefully protest. And we are also allowed to write petitions, to write our governors, to write the president, to write the senators. We are allowed to write all these people and demand that they change the law, and or at least demand that something be put on a ballot. I'm trying to look more into that. I don't know a lot about the political aspects of it, just that I know that it can be done. So as we get more and more people, which, like I said, I don't know what I need to do, if I need to put up flyers in my local area, but a lot of these people around here, they're like, why even bother? Like, why? You know, um, there's just so many people who's like, I can't change this, that I'm just one person. And that's the problem, is that everyone thinks that they're just one person. It's like, yes, you are. You're important to the cause, one person at a time, that yes, you are one person, but you're not just one person, you know, you are another pillar of truth and another soldier for righteousness and, you know, for families. And just because you already lost your kids doesn't mean that it's not too late for the rest of humanity, for the rest of our country. And I think that's really selfish that someone who they already lost their kids would be like, well, it's too late for me. That so why even bother? Like, I don't have my kids. So yeah, screw them if they lose their kids. I want everyone to lose their kids because I lost my kids. It's like, no, no. Like, make your loss mean something, like, speak up about what happened to you, speak up so that this doesn't keep happening. Like, what about your children when they grow up? Even if they end up being somebody who is brainwashed by society and they never speak to you again because of things that they were told as a child that were lies about their parent, or even things that were true about their parent for that matter. Even if you were a bad parent, or even if you were going through something, you were a drug addict. Like, so what? That's no reason for them to try to brainwash them and turn them against you and hate you. But even if there's no hope of your children ever coming back home, or if your children are people that you cannot even stand because of what happened to you guys and they hate you and you hate them, I mean, shouldn't that be all the more reason why you would want to prevent something like this from happening? What about brothers and sisters that are getting married because they didn't know they had the same parents? It happens. There's also been situations where a son married his mother by accident because neither one of them knew, because he was like so young, like he was given away as a newborn or whatever. And that's the other bad thing is too, is they actually seal a lot of these files so that children can't even find their birth parents. A lot of times that does happen where it's sealed files so they aren't even allowed to know their birth parents' name. And that's what happened with these people, even though, yes, like she was a 14-year-old and that's why she gave up her child, they still ended up sleeping together because they didn't know that they were mother and son. You know what I'm saying? And there's brothers and sisters getting married that don't know who each other is. Um, I mean, there's just so many complications to this because it's just such a huge web of lies. It's almost like it's a web of lies that's more like that the lie has gotten so far out of control. It's more like a tangled ball of yarn where it's like you try to pull one thread out and it's like, oh, there's a knot in it. Oh wait, that's not even to that string, It's like it's so far bad that the complications to this happening is innumerable. And so for one, if we even allow adoptions to go on, because I understand there may be situations that call for that, even though I don't personally agree with it, I understand there may be situations that call for that. I believe that all adoptions should be open adoptions, or they at least should not close the child's files where they can't find their birth parents. And fortunately, you guys, in today's time, with the world of technology being the way that it is a lot easier to reach people. It's a lot easier for children to find their parents. But in order to find your parents, you have to know what their name is or something, anything about them. So, and here it is. I've been ranting, and this wasn't even any of the stuff I planned on talking about, y'all. I am so sorry. We have seven minutes left. I really hope that we can get our message out there. No, I don't hope. I know that we will. I just hope it's soon. Because we're not going to stop. If any of you are currently in a battle, I would highly suggest that you do keep quiet. However, if you are somebody who sees our cause and hears our pleas for help, then please join the cause. You can join the group. I'm actually going to put that link down here. I hope it still links even though it's live. So I'm going to go get that group for you guys right now. So, and if you are someone who you've already lost your children, then you have nothing to lose by supporting us. That's friends request. That's not groups. I am sorry. I'm trying to find groups on the computer and I don't normally use Facebook on the computer. I'm sorry. Okay, so here, if you guys would like to support our cause, please feel free to click this link and it will send you to the CPS reform page. And eventually, at some point, once we get so many people, I do want to start doing petitions so that we can send stuff into our legislators. This is just the beginning. This is just us having an open discussion about this and trying to spread awareness right now. But eventually, the movement will go beyond this to where we actually start taking legal action against these people and for our country. We will go after CPS reform state by state. And above everything else, we are going to get the federal courts to change the federal law. If anything, add a new amendment. They're already trying to get a parental rights amendment passed. There is a group that is trying to do that. They're trying to get a parental rights amendment passed. Because the one, I'm not even sure if there is a parental right thing exactly, but if it is, it's very vague what I've read, and so they're trying to get the amendment. Would that be reformed also? I don't know. They're trying to get the amendment redone, or they're trying to add it. I'm not sure, but we need the federal laws changed. I know I keep saying this, but we need to have the federal laws changed to protect our most vulnerable. CPS should not be able to use disability as the sole cause for removing a child. And the other thing is they are not supposed to use financial reasons as the sole cause. Because if financial, like being poor, if it's a financial reason why CPS is taking your child, well, for one, they're supposed to be helping you. So they should be giving you programs and stuff that help you to provide for your child. Because what are they going to do? They're not doing anything differently. They're taking money from the government to take your child. Why can't the government give you money to help you keep your child? So that's another thing too, is we need to have more programs that help people keep their children. And I'm not even saying it should be like, oh, let's give these people money, because a lot of times giving money to the poor only promotes them remaining poor. And so it's very complex. I don't have all the answers. I will have to do more research to find out what exactly we should do to try to help families stay together. I definitely feel like CPS, of all places, should be the organization that helps families stay together, because it is scientifically and psychologically proven to be in the best interest of the child to remain in the home with their parents, if not a immediate family member. And like it's developmentally to the benefit of the child for them to be with their parents or immediate family members. And CPS is not doing that. They're not putting the best interest of the child first. They're putting the best interest of their pockets and their status first. Pretty much whatever allows them to suck more money from the government. And that's another issue. We should not be funding places that take our children from us. I just don't believe that that's right. Especially if you pay taxes, then you're being forced to pay for these people. And I don't think that that is right. Which I'm sure we won't be able to change all of these things, but we should at least shoot for CPS reform, making CPS have to give an account and have to answer for their crimes of the past against families. They should have to answer. They should have to reopen every single case of all the people that are still working there, I guess, because if they're not still working there, I don't really know what we could do. But of the people that are still working there should be a deep investigation of every single case. And honestly, if they're working there, I just don't think that I don't really trust having the same people working there anymore. I feel like we just need to get rid of every single person that's in CPS right now and replace them with new people who actually give a crap about kids. Um, but like I said, in the very least, the CPS reform should enforce social workers, whether they like it or not, to have to perform to the best of their ability to keeping families together. And there should be government funding that is going to CPS to keep families together rather than to move them on into adoptions. That's not what should happen. And no, we shouldn't continue paying foster people after they've adopted kids. Are you kidding me? You didn't pay me to keep my kids. Why are you going to pay these people for taking my kid? It makes no sense. So, yeah, we need to undo that, okay? Where, because the reason why they changed it is so they could get more adoptions. So, we need to stop rewarding people for adopting children. For one, if you are a foster parent, I do not believe you should be allowed to legally adopt that child. It is a conflict of interest. Your job is to be a safe house until that child is able to be reunited with their family. Or if adoption has to be a thing, they have to be adopted outside of your home. It's that plain and simple. Why do people not understand this? So we need to stop all of that. And we need to have the government funding that's going for all these foster homes and people that's been adopting kids. We need to have more of that funding going to CPS, keeping families together. We should be rewarding CPS for successfully reuniting families. Okay? It should be considered to be a bad job if you were not able to reunite family. That's the whole point of your job, is to make sure that children and their families are as healthy as possible. And if you aren't even trying to do that, then what's even the point of your job? I'm sorry, I'm ranting now. We're 3 minutes past the time, and my contacts are also driving me crazy, and I still haven't ate because I don't really want to put you guys through that. I will stay here for a couple more minutes to let you guys call in. So this is your last chance to call in or to send a message, either through the comments or by texting the number. Again, the number is 336 444 2169. So if you would like to call in, now is your chance, or text. I'll stay here for another minute or so, give you guys a chance. And everybody that has come out tonight, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I'm going to keep doing this every week. This week, I promise you, I will write down the stuff that I think about. I thought about a few good things to talk about, but I just didn't remember to write them down. So I'm going to try to do that. This week, when I remember what it is I want to talk about, I'm going to write it down, and I'll have my little notebook like over here or something, and go over some of the topics that I want to talk about involving CPS. All right, we'll wait a few more seconds for you guys. Get your comments, your text, your phone calls in. I'll wait about 30 more seconds. And again, feel free to join the CPS reform page. Um, at some point, I'm going to try to and share it with other Facebook groups. There's probably other CPS groups that would like to join. So if you want to, feel free to share the group. Feel free to share my channel with anybody that you think would be interested, or anybody that you know has went through this, or anyone that is against CPS or against children losing their parents. All right, well, I think that's about it for tonight, you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you guys so much for your support. And again, um, the link is in the for the Facebook group is in the comments. That's in the live chat. I'll have to rewrite it again, probably in the comments below. I'll rewrite that, and as well for those of you who have lost your children and lost your parental rights and have no chance of reunification, there's a special group for you as well. And I will put that in the comments after this video uploads. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. Your support means so much to me. It really does. Um, you're part of the reason why I keep doing this. So thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. And God bless.